A jury has found Thomas Latanowich guilty of murdering a Yarmouth police sergeant. He was convicted on all 7 charges against him, including murder.
Defendant Thomas N. Latanowich is charged with murder. Is he guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what?
Second-degree murder.
Latanowich was convicted of shooting and killing Sergeant Gannon in 2018 while Gannon was trying to serve a warrant at a home in Marston Mills. Officer Gannon and his canine Nero went into the attic searching. Both were shot. The canine survived. Gannon did not. The defense argued throughout this trial that Latanowich opened fire in self-defense. It claimed someone had tried to kill him days earlier, and he thought his life was in danger. Cheryl Fiandaca joined us on CBS in Boston, where we carried that verdict live for you. And here's what she had to say about the jury's decision and their deliberations.
Well, you know, we've been watching this all along, and we've been watching the evidence in the case, and we know a lot about what happened there because all of it played out actually live on that particular day. We know that from the evidence that the prosecution put forward that there were a lot of text messages, and he was hiding in the attic when they were looking for him. He allegedly shot Sergeant Gannon, and then he shot the dog. And his defense was that he didn't know he was shooting at a police officer.
We know yesterday the jury was they deliberated, I think it was 15 or so hours, maybe a little bit more than that. Is that kind of a normal amount of time for a jury to deliberate when it comes to a case like this where you have the death of a police officer?
You know, it always varies. It depends on what kind of evidence, how many witnesses they had, how much they all have to sort through in the jury room. It does take some time, and I think that most juries really want to be thoughtful and think through all of the charges and all of the elements. And the Commonwealth has to prove, the prosecution has to prove each and every element of every crime. And sometimes that can be a little confusing, which is why sometimes you'll see jurors come and ask questions about whether or not they met the standard, or whether or not the instructions that they were given are clear enough to be able to help them reach a decision. From what we understand, the charge for right about the dog, and I think they may have been hung up on some of the language in the statute which did not specifically say shooting. It says harming, maiming, injuring, but it doesn't specifically say shooting, and maybe that was what they were hung up on. But you know, it's hard to say unless they come forward later.